Thanks for joining the Baidu KDD Cup 2022. We are doing spatial dynamic wind power forecasting. I'm the head of Business Intelligence Lab and Big Data Lab at Baidu Research. So I'm going to do this as an open mark and introduce what's this competition, what happened, right? So and especially the winners of the competitions, and then introduce the workshop schedule and introduce two keynote speech. Okay, so we know that the low carbon transition in the energy sectors plays a key role in reducing global carbon dioxide emissions and achieving carbon neutrality, right? This year, KDD Cup actually focus on the tactics of wind energy utilizations. This is a very important low carbon solution for the energy sector. So we proposed as a Baidu Research and Chinese Energy, especially Longyuan Power Group, and also with Tsinghua University, so we propose a spatial dynamic wind power forecasting challenge to facilitate the progress of data-driven machine learning method for wind power forecasting. Okay, so as we know that wind power plays a leading role in electricity production in the renewable energy sector, right? So it's a green energy for sure. And however, the uncertainties and the fluctuation of wind power may significant obstacles to its use in practice. So what we are doing for this competition is trying to do wind power forecasting. This is one of the most critical issues in wind power integration and operation. So what we have done is we have collected 134 wind turbines from a wind farm of Longyuan from more than half a year, right? So we use the data with 13 features. Those features about the turbine itself, right? For example, wind turbine ID and the time, day of the record, and also critical time of the record. Then we have some external features, for example, the wind speed and the angle between the wind direction and the position of turbine. Then also the temperature of surrounding environment, right? Temperature. Then we also have some inside internal features. For example, the yaw angles of the nacelle, okay, the pitch angle of blade 1, pitch angle of blade 2, pitch angle of blade 3, and also reactive power and active power. Okay, so use this, we kind of include the external environment features, internal operation status, and relative distance between the turbines, right? Then we can use these 13 features to predict the average, the wind power prediction for ahead of 48 hours. So we try to predict what's going to happen in 48 hours, right? So this, all the performance has been evaluated in the average score of the MAE and RMSE, right? So there are some initial data release, right, to the competition team. Wait 1 second. Sorry about that. And so there are some initial data release stage. Then we have phase 1, phase 2, and final phase, and the team submit the final result. Okay, we have 2 tracks. One is regular track, right? It's have basically the first place, second, the third place, and we also have award for 4th to 10th, right? Then we also have a special pedal track if the teams use pedal. Okay, that's 2 track. Okay, so this year is very successful because we have 2,490 teams from the whole world. Okay, actually from 32 countries. Those countries include the developed countries, right? For example, United States, right, and the UK and the European countries, right? So and Canada, right? Also Australia. also some developing countries, right, including China, also consider ourselves as developing countries, and also some really underdeveloped countries, for example, the Cameroon in Africa, and also the Afghanistan, okay, in Asia. So it's very broad competitions from the world, and also those teams come from more than 800 institutions, including the top universities in the world, and also some big companies in the world. Okay, so this is a record in last 3 years. Okay, yes. The number of teams. It's for last 3 years. This is a largest number of teams. Okay, even actually we dig out the all history of KDD Cups. This is top 3. In I think 14 of KDD Cups. Okay, so very successful. And now I'm going to announce. Actually, you already know, right? I mean, the teams already know, and the winner teams, right? In the regular track, we have number 1, the gold medal goes to the HIK team from HIK region, right? And we have silver medal. Number 2 is Trimore, okay, and number 3 is Taniran, okay, from Taniran company, okay. So then also we have other teams ranked from number 4 to number 10, number 11, number 20. Theoretically, we choose the teams not only based on the final score, also based on their reports. Okay, so they need to submit a report about what they have done, what competition looks like. Okay, so what's the algorithm looks like, right? Okay, so then for the pedal track, the Trimore actually was a silver medal in regular track. Also, they are the gold medal or number 1 in the pedal track. Okay, congratulations. Okay, they basically they won 2 awards. Okay, the number 2 team is Zhang Shijing, right? So from I believe they're from a joint 3 schools. Okay, then number 3 is easy as SAT. Okay, congratulations for those teams. Then we'll have number 4 to number 10 for the pedal track. Okay, so this is the schedule for the workshop. Okay, first there will be keynote speaker from Da-En Bao. He is the vice general manager of Zhongnen Power Tech Development Companies. Okay, and also we have second keynote speaker Yuxin Wu as a professor of Tsinghua University. Okay, then after that we have a little break. Then we come back. We have the winner teams give their presentations about their algorithms and their result from 10:12 to 12:30. Okay, and so that's a rough schedule. So again, congratulations for all the winner teams. Okay, I think both tracks, and also you came from all the competition actually come from the whole world, right? So more than 2,400 teams, right? So you become the winner of, I mean, even just the top 20 or top 10, that's already a big achievement. And so I think that's big congratulations for both tracks. And I mean, we have about each track have 10 teams, right, as winners, right? So but definitely the top 3, right, for each track is they are excellent, and I think that they deserve a big congratulations. Okay, thank you, and let's move to the next in the schedule, and we invite the Vice General Manager of Zhongnen, Da-En Bao, to give a speech. Okay, keynote speech. Okay, thanks. Jimbo,
Hello,
I think you can begin to.
Yeah, Prof. Do, I think you should exist from the share screen. Then
Yeah. I already stop.
Yeah.
Stop the share screen. Yes.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am Bao Dao.
Just make it louder.
As General Manager of Zhongneng Power Tech Development Corporation, which is a wholly owned technology subsidiary of Longyuan Power. KDD Cup has been well known as one of the most influential top-level competitions in the world. It is a great honor and pleasure to participate in the International KDD Cup as one of the main organizers. In this talk, I will briefly introduce the basic situation of our parent company, Longyuan Power, and the progress of data mining related work in our applications. Part 1, brief company introduction. Longyuan Power Group Corporation was established in 1993 and successfully listed on the main board of Hong Kong in 2009. It is known as China's energy stock and was officially listed on Chinese Asia in 2022 as the earliest company in China to develop wind power. Wind power has been a point in opening up China's offshore low wind speed, high altitude, and other wind fields, continuously leading the industry's development and technological progress. Since 2015, we have maintained position as the world's largest wind power operator. Longyuan Power currently has wind power, photovoltaic, and other projects. Our business is distributed in 32 provinces in China, as well as Canada, South Africa, and other countries. It has made positive contribution to the global green, low carbon energy development and renewable energy utilization. By the end of 2021, the company's total installed capacity was 22 gigawatts, and the installed capacity of wind power and the photovoltaic orders was 25 gigawatts. The capacity of wind power will continue to be #1 in the world. Part 2, applications of data mining tech in wind power.
Thank you.
The foreseeable energy crisis, global energy security, political environment issue, climate change have attracted a lot of attention over the world. The rapid development of the wind power industry has made the wind power a promising solution to promote energy transformation and cope with global climate change. With expansion of worldwide wind power capacity, as well as the development of data collection and storage technology, vast of data has been collected during the research and industrial applications. The industry already carries out a variety of research studies, like fault diagnosis, model estimation, prediction model. Part 3, data mining technique used by Longyuan. As a leading enterprise in the clean energy industry, Longyuan Power always adhere to technological innovation, devoting a lot of resource to explore the value contained in the massive operation data of wind turbines. By applying the technology, we have implemented several solutions to the full life cycle of the wind power production system, reduce the production cost, improve operating efficiency. First, we complete the digital infrastructure, build an operating platform. The platform can access to 14,000 wind turbines, more than 6,000 photovoltaic equipment, and more than 220 station equipment for data collection in real time. Second, based on massive production data, data mining technology is applied to intelligent fault diagnosis of wind turbine, used to find early warning for preventive maintenance. We also developed equipment failure warning models, analyzed online vibration data, and carried drone inspection. This technology changed the equipment management from alarm to warning, from passive to active. Third, Longyuan built fault-free wind farms. Since the company cooperated with manufacturers to start the construction, frequency of failure has significantly decreased. Continuous operation unit has doubled. Utilization hours has increased dramatically. Part 4, wind power prediction. Wind power prediction stabilizes power grids, which is also the theme of this competition. Due to the randomness and uncertainty of new energy power generation, it is a challenge to the grids when more and more wind farms are connected. Over the decades, researchers from different institutes over the world are dedicated to resolve the wind prediction problem. The key to ensure the stable operating of high energy power connected to the power grid. Power prediction is also of great significance to electricity market transactions. Supply and demand determine price, and price guide the market. Power prediction provides important signal for the upcoming market. In the mutual power trading market, the market forms can be long-term or short-term, day ahead or real time. However, the essence of the market is to meet the trading preference of both parties so as to promote the consumption of new energy. Power prediction helps power plants predict regional generating capacity in advance. In the new power system with new energy as the main body, power prediction is the basic technology of power market transaction, which assists the generating market and transmission of electricity. The power prediction is still a challenge. With global warming and extreme weather, such as short-term strong gust, strong convective weather in summer, and strong gusts caused by cold waves, power prediction requires high-resolution numerical weather forecasting. But commonly used regional prediction models have technical limitations. They cannot fully satisfy the accurate prediction. Longyuan is preparing to carry out intensive observation of extreme weathers. In addition, there are a large number of incomplete and abnormal data due to the wind, sunlight maintenance. Therefore, it is necessary to continuously use data mining technology. The features of Longyuan power prediction system comparing to mainstream manufacturers at home and abroad. Longyuan Power has developed power prediction technology since 2009, which is at the leading level in the industry. At present, Longyuan has more than 200 wind farms with different climate, topographic backgrounds. Through those first-hand information, Longyuan explores classification and quantitative identification criteria of weather processes at different stations. The establishment of power prediction models with different spatial and time scales has finally formed a wind farm weather disaster warning and centralized AI system. This system can improve production quality and efficiency, help the company to realize the idea of unattended power stations and achieve high-quality development. Finally, the KDD Cup provides an ideal platform to researchers and engineers for exchanging ideas and display research results in this field of data mining. The power forecasting problem is not only one aspect of the application of data mining in the field of new energy. There are still many practical and challenging problems in this field, such as high precision winds, sunlight, and storage integrated power generation technology, AI system, cloud, industry digital transformation, and other data mining technologies. In the future, we would like to invite researchers, engineers from institutions, and enterprises over the world to work together. We believe the recent advancement of artificial intelligence technology will bring brand new and historical innovation to solve the practical problems. Millions of thanks to you all. Enjoy the day.
Thanks for the talk, and Jimbo, should I just introduce Professor Yixin Wu?
Yeah, yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, so let's thank Professor Yixin Wu accept our invitation for a keynote speech. He's currently associate professor at the Department of Energy and Power Engineering in Tsinghua University. He got his bachelor degree and doctorate degree both at Department of Thermal Engineering in 2002 and 2008 in Tsinghua. His research interests include the clean utilization technologies of fossil fuel, high fidelity numerical modeling of reactive multi-phase flow, and intelligent power generation of coal-fired power station with no carbon. He has published more than 150 papers and has been issued more than 20 patents. He has led more than 30 projects, including NSFC, NSF Joint Project, NSFC Young's Project, National Science and Technology Major Project, and so on. He has also achieved 6 awards from the Chinese government and organizations. Thank you, Professor Wu, and yeah, please, yeah, you can begin your talk.
Yeah, thanks, President, for introduction. Hello, everyone. It's my great pleasure to have this chance to give keynotes for KDD Cup workshop. So the topic is the role of data in conventional energy for green future. And I will first give the introduction of myself, where the president have gave it. So according to my research interest, actually you may find that I'm a guy still devoted in the conventional energy, so including coal-firing and fossil fuel and low carbon energies. So well, at the same time, I'm also very interested in the data science. So I will be very glad to try to combine these two together in here. So firstly, I want to talk about the way we try to describe the world. Generally, I want to categorize it in 3 ways. The first is laws. For example, in the energies, we know the well-known first and second law of thermodynamics, right? It points out the directions that's how we get energy from the nature, from this world. Well, the second category is about modeling. So the modeling, as long as we design more and more instruments, we want to build different type of models and try to predict their performance. And as the development of the computer science, we know that the computational abilities doubles every 18 months. So such fast improvement of the computational abilities can also improve the model development. For example, especially for the numerical modeling. For example, here I want to show you how we use numerical models to predict the flow field and as well as the combustions inside a furnace or a coal burner. Well, the third category is the data, right? So what's data? The data, you know, as the development of the technologies, the more and more data we have acquired. Well, when we try to modeling them, we know, for example, here we using an average band with 90% of confidential, then we get a trend, right? But compare this trend and data. If we come back data itself, we have an impression that actually, okay, when we during the modeling, we make too much simplifications, where actually the data itself may provide more information. Some of them may help us to improve the predictions or understand the real case. So also we know that as a development of the storage and Ethernet speed, which is much faster than the computational abilities. So it's no doubt that data science will even play more important roles. So the question is how we make the role of data in the future, and especially in the energy. So when we talk about the energy, I want to firstly mention the energy in future, as more and more people have concerns that about the global warming, right? For example, if we want to control the temperature increase is less than 1.5 centigrade by 1950, that means we have to, by the end of this century, then we have to achieve the zero CO2 emission by 2050, all over the world. So that's a big goal. Well, for China, we have known that China has proposed the dual carbon goals. That means we bring carbon emissions to peak before 2030, where we try to achieve carbon neutrality in 2060. So those two big milestones also have strong, much effective, have strong effect on the development of the energy systems. For example, a lot of researchers have drawn the pathways how Chinese government to design the energy system. For example, the Chinese Academy of Science has proposed a multi-energy integration technology system, which is called the 4 mainlands, 4 platforms, which is shown in this figure. We can see in the energy part, production part, both fossil energy and renewable energy, they play very important roles. And besides this system, we can see they are fully combined. And that means we have to consider the combination of both conventional energy and renewable energy system. Well, at the same time, we can also see the change of energy contribution in future. Here, under this dashed lines, we may see the conventional energy, including the coal, the other thermal, and the nuclear. So, well, upper this dashed lines is the renewable energy, especially for wind and solar. And we immediately find that before 2030, the goal should be how to improve the efficiency and flexibility of the conventional energy, where for a long term, how can we find a way to combine the complex energy system to keep the system robust and to keep the energy safety? So the question is, can we build a flexible energy for the conventional and so that to keep those up to now still called unstable energy to be the major energy? Such kind of the transformation should be very important. So in order to do this, we have to build a stronger prediction method to know not only the instruments but also the systems. So if we come back to those 3 categories of the ways we try to describe the world and predict the world, we know that the first I want to talk about the modeling. Take numerical modeling as an example. This figure shows an instantaneous radical profile in a flame. So you may say the radicals like HO2 and OH, there's a big gradient across the flame, right? Well, for numerical modeling, especially for CFD, what we do is we try to make discretization of this space, and then to make the point to represent these cells. So we lost some information. In order to get a high fidelity, we need a final mesh, just like this, so that to get a much correct gradients of these radicals. So this high fidelity also means more information, more data. So actually, up to now, the data processing is also very desired in this area. Still in my research group, we have take 10 years to devote this area, and we have built a high fidelity numerical models for the real energy instruments, including this 660 megawatt SCC powerized codes. The supercritical boiler actually is it's a huge furnace, you know, with a height more than 100 meters and its breadth is more than 20 meters. Those flames are in big scales, and also the data is huge. So, for example, this movie takes 1 second of movie will take about we can generate about 2 terabytes of data. So, how can we get useful information from so much big scale data is also very important. So that means for the models, we need to consider about the data. So that's also true for the coal power plants. For example, we know that for the coal firing instrument in China, it has come to the highest performance over the world. However, it also faced big challenges such as load change, huge sharp load change of coal power plant, and also it faced reducing operating hours. So we want to keep a high efficiency and flexibility of the power plant, where we also want to achieve complex goals such as energy safety and low carbon emission. And how to do this? You know, we have to build strong models and the prediction tools. So take an example as you know, for example, if we want to monitor the heat surface safety online, the reason we want to do this is we know that, for example, for this figure, it shows a furnace of a boiler. It's a huge furnace which is composed of thousands of pipes running under high temperature and high pressure. So if any pipe damage will lead to immediate abnormal shutdown. So we try to avoid this. So how can we judge the crisis points is a big issue. However, we lack in the data. So in order to do this, the first step is try to build a data collection system. So we developed a special design, the heat flux meter, and we installed this heat flux meter, more than 100 heat flux meters across the whole furnaces, and so that the detailed data actually is temperature of the lower point and higher temperature point, the temperature data was achieved as this. So then according to this temperature data, and based on the traditional heat transfer model, we can get the trend like this, for example, as these dashed lines. However, if we note for each band of a load range, we may see that the true data actually there's a big scattered data across this theory. The reasons is that we know that even at the same point, since the boundary conditions and the running conditions keep continuously changing, so that makes even we build a numerical model or a theoretical model, we cannot identify its boundary conditions and its constants, model constants. So then the questions are, how can we get this? So in order to do this, we proposed a model based on the historical data processing. So I wouldn't take time to go to the detailed algorithms, but the basic idea is that we build a heat transfer model to predict the concern variables, which is related to the safety issues. Well, for this model, the model constant has to be identified by data training. So the data training is based on the historical data. So for this, we combine both the data training and the models together, so that we can get much better predictions for the heating surface crisis judgment. So in my comment is actually the traditional modeling work is also make evolutions with for example, in past we just considers the instantaneous database, right? To online data, then we get online results. But actually, up to now, we also notice the historical database. So I believe that there will be a bridge is still desired between empirical models and the data science. And another example is about the scientific research. Also, taking the gas solid flow as an example, the particle wall impaction behavior is very important for particle separation and dispersion instrument design. So we have to understand the particle impacting on the wall, the behavior of these particle wall collision issues. In order to do this, we build a test rig, and through the laser layer and the high-speed CCD, we can capture this instantaneous particle wall heating images, and with different types of particles, so that we can build a database. So for this database, according to image processing algorithm, we can get the particle velocities before and after impacting on the wall. And finally, we can get the data like this. We use the restitution coefficients represent the behaviors of particle collection. We will see that actually this type of behaviors is very scattered along the particle wall angle. So if we use a model, of course, we can get a trend. However, the data itself is very scattered due to the very big uncertainties of such as particle properties like particle size, the particle, the sphericities and its hardness and materials, a lot of issues. And besides that, the impaction angle also plays a strong effect. So how can we build a model? Then finally, we try both modeling and neural network. For modeling, we still adopt the box plot to watch data, and then we proposed a traditional model with possibility density functions. And here we realize the model and comparing with scattered data, so that we can identify the model parameters. And here for the neural network, either for very simple neural network or those complex neural network, we can also reproduce this data. And it's very interesting. The very exciting things is like this. When we try to compare the neural network and the empirical model, the results through the baselines or the experimental data, we find that the neural network performs much better than the traditional model. So that shows how stronger it is for the data science. So another issue we concern is about data science can help us to understand the physics. In order to do this, we build a two-layer neural network. For the first layer, we output a property neural, which is try to use to identify the dominant parameters like particle properties. Then we make another additional input like the velocities and angles, and then make the data training in the second layer. And based on this two-layer neural network, we finally the neural network itself helps us to identify the dominant parameters, which is particle size. And this conclusion also was proved by the experimental investigations. So another progress is about wind energy for flexible grid. The first work is that we also collaborate with Longyuan companies, and we try to try to answer this question: is it possible for wind energy to contribute to a frequency regulation of grid. So since we know that conventional coal-fired power plants, it's very hard to provide abilities of frequency regulation. So for this, in order to answer this question, we developed a theoretical analysis method and based on the farm's operating data. And the data here, it shows there is a great potential for one farm to reserve power to fulfill the energy required for frequency regulation. That means a combination of traditional power plants and wind power is very meaningful. And another case also comes from our collaborators in Tsinghua University. That's Professor Jiang Dongxiang and Professor Liu Chao. They devoted a lot of work on of AI in wind energy. So, for example, they built a anomaly detection models framework so that to identify the anomaly, and they trained the data was acquired either by the experimental study and the field data. So both experimental data and field data was used, and then it found that the supervised manner and unsupervised manner works well for anomaly detection. And also, besides that, their framework can help to discover, achieve through the model on the scattered data. For example, here it shows how the wind speed have effects on the related parameters. And another work is for the prediction of power of wind power. So for this work, they proposed wind power forecasting model, and which considering the weather forecast and wind speed correlation model, which is shown here. And they also found that the correct data washing method and wind speed correlation can improve the prediction results very efficiently. And then the summary. So the data-driven based on methods will play more and more important roles in complex energy systems, and a bridge is needed for traditional modeling and data science. It's very important to get the essential data for good prediction, and also the combination of conventional energy and wind farms can help construction of a flexible grid. Also some progress of AI research on wind energy at Tsinghua has been reported. And thanks for your attention.
Okay, thanks, Professor Wu. And maybe actually we can have a couple of minutes if anyone have any questions for Professor Wu, because there's a very good chance, right? Opportunities to ask some questions. Okay, maybe I do have a questions. Professor, how do you think this kind of traditional conventional energy and the new energy, green energy, how can we more efficiently or to combine to use them together? Is any kind of higher mental models to do that?
That's a good question. Thanks. I ever talked about with some energy power companies.
Mm.
So a lot of companies such as Datang, also they have make a new department which is deep, maybe deep regulation rate, right? Maybe also for Zhongneng, right? Mm-hmm. So for this, that means for energy companies, all either have conventional energy and the renewable energy, and maybe for the energy storage system or future maybe hydrogen system, right? So for this grid, then the prediction is very important, because the predictions not, for example, taking example from the energy production side, for example, for wind energy, we need to know the estimated power output. Well, at the same time, we want to know the power requirement, right? So we try to make this balance. So the prediction, a better prediction, can help us to get the good strategies. And take an example like this, for example, for this. So although the wind energy have some potential energies, right? And it shows it can have very fast adjustment. Well, at the same time, the energy is still limited. It's in short term, right? It's not a long term. So for long term, it need conventional sections, conventional energy sections, such as coal or thermal power plants, right? So since they can help to provide more energy to balance the grid requirements from grid. So I think it's a great idea for the power companies to build this deep regulation department besides the grid, the national grid. So this two stage can help us to combine the conventional and the renewable energies together. It's our duty. It's the energy. It's a duty of energy companies. So that's my comment. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Very helpful. So actually, there's one question from the chat box. Ask maybe you can see that. Could you elaborate a bit more on the wind speed correction model of the last slide? The last slide for the wind speed correction.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This one.
Yeah.
So we use the LSTM algorithm. Actually, it's the long short-term memory. So with this method, it can help to correct the wind speed. The reason why is because we know the firstly some data is not that maybe it's not reasonable, and the training from that the bad data, the bad data may the increase the uncertainties very obviously. And another is if for the short-term prediction like hours, then that's okay. We just use historical data. However, if it's for the days, the prediction of more than 1 day, like 4 days, right? Just as is 48 hours, just as this competition, KDD Cup. So the weather forecast data shall be also involved. So this data, but this data also has uncertainty. So I think that's motivation. But to be honest, I just know few of this model. You may ask for Professor Liu and Professor Jiang for details. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I think this is time for the talks from winner teams. Okay, that would be exciting. So Jingbo, maybe you take over.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Wu. Thank you, Prof. Dou. Then the next step, actually we have, I think we do not have time for the break. Then we will go to the next session, the presentation from the regular track. The winner team, we have 3 winner teams, and the session chair is Xinjiang Lu. Xinjiang, you can take over the control.
Okay, thanks, Jingbo. In this year, the KDD Cup, we have a lot of submissions. Use a popular deep learning framework like PyTorch, TensorFlow, or other machine learning frameworks. Now we have in this session we have 3 winners to present their works. And the first is the team HIK, and participants Linsen Li, Qinchen Sun, and others. So I think it's time for the team HIK.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you share your screen?
Okay. I have made a video record for a better experience, so I'm now sharing this video.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Linsen Li. I'm very glad to present our work in Baidu KDD Cup in this year. Our team is an elected team with Zhejiang University and Acquisition Research Institute. The title of our method is Complementary Fusion of Deep Spatial Temporal Network and a Tree Model for Wind Power Forecasting. The outline of my presentation is listed here. First, I will introduce the motivation of our problem. Wind energy is a green energy. It plays an important role in energy conservation and emission reduction. As shown in left figure, for example, China's wind power generation capacity is growing rapidly during last decade. The right figure is an illustration of a wind farm. Each wind turbine can generate power separately, and the outcome power of the wind farm is the sum of all wind turbines. However, wind power cannot be produced consistently because of variable wind, which can bring substantial challenges to incorporate wind power into a grid system. Next, I will introduce the overview of this competition briefly. Competition organizer present a unique spatial dynamic wind power forecasting dataset, which includes the spatial distribution of wind turbines, as well as the dynamic context factors like temporal, weather, and the turbine internal status. The competition objective is to predict power generation of 134 wind turbines in 48 hours, and the average of RMSE and MAE is used as the main evaluation. There are several requirements in the competition, such as external data, model size limitation, computation time. Next, I will introduce the related work. The related studies in recent years can be divided into 3 categories: time series model-based, spatial temporal model-based, and ensemble model-based methods. Time series forecasting-based method regard wind power as a time series data and adopt RNN-based or transformer-based model to predict. Spatial temporal model-based method treat wind power as spatial temporal graph data with spatial distance and use graph neural networks to predict, such as AGCRN, DCRN, and graph wavelet. Unfortunately, these methods ignore the complicated relation between nodes. Besides, in order to tackle the fluctuation of wind power, ensemble model-based methods are also popular in relative competition and research. However, most ensemble strategies fuse the model statically, which may perform poor when data distribution is different. Next, I will introduce the preliminaries. In this section, we provide formal definition of data, structure, and problem in our paper. We use multivariate time series to represent all the data generated by wind turbines. We use graphs to capture the spatial and the semantic correlation between turbines. We formulate the problem as learning a function to forecast the next tau steps based on the past t steps here historical data. In the following, I will present our proposed method. We propose the complementary fusion of deep spatial temporal network and tree model for wind power forecasting, named as FDSTT. The overall framework of FDSTT is illustrated in this figure. It consists of 4 parts. Part 1 is a multi-relation graph constructor, which generates multi-relation graphs for spatial temporal information aggregation. Part 2 is a deep multi-relational spatial temporal module, which aggregates the spatial information and captures temporal patterns in an encoder-decoder form. Part 3 is a spatial temporal tree module, which takes partitions in the spatial dimensions and makes the prediction for each time segment to improve accuracy and robustness. Part 4 is the ensemble module, which can dynamically fuse the output of each module in a data-driven ensemble strategy. First, we will introduce the idea and methods in multi-relational graph constructor. The figure shows the relationship between spatial distance and power similarity. We find that when distance is less than 5 kilometers, power correlation decreases when spatial distance increases. However, when the spatial distance is large, the power similarity of some wind turbines is also strong. So we construct the correlation graph from multiple spatial distances, not only from Euclidean distances. We calculate the Euclidean distance between 2 nodes to get the spatial distance matrix. Then take the top k nearest nodes as the labels of each node. We use the wind speed change to calculate the similarity between nodes and construct a semantic aware graph. Then we obtain the top k most similar nodes as semantic labels for each node. This figure shows the structure of deep multi-relational spatial temporal network in part 2. We aggregate the wind speed information from 1 hop labels from spatial aware graph and the semantic aware graph. We also represent each turbine with a learnable latent vector by adding an embedding layer to the model, and we use GRU to build sequence-to-sequence model. In the encoded input, we concate the wind speed spatial feature with the turbine embedding and the context feature. In the decoder input, we concate the predicted power with the wind turbine embedding and several known features like time and wind turbine position. In part 3, we build a spatial partitioned time-phased tree model. Considering the weakly factor of the wind farm, we use Pearson correlation coefficient to calculate the similarities between turbines, and k-means is used to spatially cluster the wind farm based on the wind speed similarity. Building a tree model for each timestamp would lead to too many models and the risk of model overfitting. Therefore, timestamps has been separated in several phases. Furthermore, we use LightGBM to build a tree model in each spatial partition time-phased pattern. Due to unstable distribution of data, learning-based fusion strategy may lead to overfitting, while fixed fusion strategy have a poor performance with inconsistent distribution. Therefore, we adopt a dynamic fusion method, which selects different ensemble strategies according to the current power state of the wind farm. This strategy can effectively solve the problem of unstable distribution of the wind farm. Here, we analyze the experimental results. Organizer provide a real spatial dynamic wind power forecasting dataset, which includes 245 days records of 134 turbines in a wind farm. To verify the effectiveness of our proposed FDSTT method, we compare it with popular time series forecasting and spatial temporal forecasting methods. The average of RMSE and MAE is used as the main evaluation score. This table depicts the results obtained on the official test datasets for the three phases. FDSTT won the first in the final phase and the second in phase 2 of completion. Besides, the primary version of FDSTT won the third place in phase 1. These results demonstrate that FDSTT can achieve consistently superior performance over different test datasets. Using a self-constructed test dataset, we compare FDSTT with the baselines. The comparison results are shown in Table 2. Obviously, FDSTT achieves the best performance. To evaluate the effect of key components for our proposed model, we conduct an ablation study on these components based on the self-constructed test datasets. The results are shown in Table 3. From this table, we can see that all the components are useful for the superior performance of FDSTT. At last, I will make a conclusion of our work. First, in this work, we propose a lower ensemble model for long-term wind power forecasting, named as FDSTT, which fuses deep spatial temporal model and tree model. Second, we construct multi-relation graphs based on distance labels and semantic labels. Third, we design a data-driven ensemble strategy for unstable data distribution in wind power forecasting. Finally, our proposed model FDSTT won the first in the final phase of the KDD Cup. More detailed information can be found in our paper. That's all. Thank you for your listening.
Okay. Thanks for Mr. Liu. Sorry, Ms. Li. Any questions from the attendees? Okay, I have questions. In your presentation, you talk about you use a graph, multi-relational graph to integrate into your model, right?
We use a multi-relational graph constructor to model the spatial correlations between nodes,
Yeah.
and also a semantic graph between nodes.
Right. Okay. My question is that why didn't you use some deep models like graph neural network? Like
Yeah,
state-of-the-art GN models?
we have tried. Okay.
And the performance not good?
Yeah, we have tried several spatial temporal networks, which is used in traffic prediction, but it doesn't work very well in our situation.
And the reason behind it, what is the reason behind?
I think maybe it is because of the wind speed is changing very inconsistently. So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we don't have enough for other questions, so let's just go ahead for the next presenter.
Okay.
And thanks again for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, our next winner team is Try More, and the presenter may be Han Liu. Okay, is Han Liu here?
I'm here.
Okay, you can go ahead.
Sorry.
We cannot see your share screen. Is there anything wrong?
I think the previous speaker, maybe he need release the share screen, I guess.
Yeah, Mr. Linson Lee, maybe you can stop your share screen, and then you can share her screen. Lee, can you hear me? And you can share your screen.
I think she just exit and relog in into the meeting.
Okay, Liu. Okay, we can see your share screen. You can start your presentation.
Okay. I'm so sorry. Hello, everyone. This is Team Chai Mao. I'm Han Liu from Siyuan Electric. I'm here to present our solution to special dynamic wind power forecasting for KDD Cup 2022. I will introduce it from the following four parts. Any question?
I think we're okay. Please go ahead.
Okay. First, I will introduce the task briefly, and then the details of our solution and method will be explained. The third part is a comparison of some results, and the last part is conclusion. The task of the competition is to effectively predict the power generation of 134 turbines at the wind farm over the next 2 days. It is required to output the prediction values every 10 minutes. There are some main challenges in the wind power forecasting. First, due to some reasons, a large number of outliers appear in the collected historical data. Second, it is very difficult to extract key features from the available data. Finally, in general, it is pretty easy to predict wind power for the next few hours. However, the forecast of wind power in the next 48 hours is much more difficult. So how to predict the wind power for a longer term is a big challenge. To address the above challenges, we designed an effective data processing flow, analyze the impact of wind turbine data from the perspective of the overall wind farm, proposed a unique method to correct the prediction results, and designed a multi-model hybrid prediction integration schema. Now I will detail a few key points of the solution below. For time series forecasting, the closer the prediction is to the starting point, the more accurate the prediction is, and the larger step is, the larger the error is. Considering this feature, we use multi-model, multi-step training method to generate multiple models with different step size, and then use the results of shorter step model to correct the results of long step, so as to make the prediction more accurate. For example, If an output with step size 36 is used to correct an output with step size 13.2, the first step is to calculate the average of the first 36 steps of the two outputs respectively, and then subtract the two means and multiply them by a coefficient, which is used as the correction value of step 13.7 to 17.2. Interactively correcting the long step result with the shorter step result like this, we end up with a reversed prediction of 288 steps. According to the results of several experiments, we choose 0.4 as the coefficient. This graph plots the average PITV of wind turbines over 245 days in order of PITV from highest to lowest. Left 10 bars are the 10 turbines with highest wind power output, while right 10 bars are the turbines with lowest output. And the difference between the highest and lowest values is more than 13%. We assume that the higher the PITV, the closer the wind power output is to the theoretical output. This is subject to less mechanical adjustment and fewer outliers by the turbine itself. At the same time, mechanical adjustment and anomalies are difficult to predict. Therefore, we selected the wind turbines with the highest wind power output to train the model and use their predictions to represent the outputs of other turbines. We tried top 15, top 10, top 5, and top 1. And finally, the experimental results proved that the prediction using top 5 was the most accurate. Maybe top 4 or top 6 would be better than top 5, but we do not have enough time to find out. In order to obtain better integration results, we use different filter sets for different models to construct differences. According to the spatial position matrix of the wind turbine, the closer the distance is, the closer the external environment and the wind power output of the turbine are. So we divided the 134 turbines into 10 groups based on proximity. In each group, the attributes of none are populated with the average of other non-none values in that group on the TM stamp dimension. In future engineering, in addition to time normalization, multi-step lag operator and multi-step differences operations are also implemented. Based on all the key points mentioned above, we designed a multi-model ensemble wind power prediction schema. The model consists of 3 modules: multi-step tree module, top-N module, and multivariate fusion module. In order to fully explore the value of data and adapt to the characteristics of different models, each model uses different feature engineering to construct differences. Top-N module is mainly used to predict the theoretical power output of the overall wind field. Multi-step tree module and multivariate fusion module are used to learn the unique characteristics of each turbine and predict the power output of each turbine according to these characteristics. In many cases, the performance of a single module is limited. Hybrid forecasting methods combine the capabilities of models to better adapt to sample changes by fusing the results of each model. When combining the models together, we assign a weight coefficient to the prediction results of each model, according to the validity of the models, and fine-tune the weights through experiments to obtain better results. The weight distribution of the model combination looks like this. This table shows the improvement process of our schema and the performance after improvement. The experiment proves the effectiveness of our schema optimization. Finally, we make some conclusion. We propose a multi-model integrated prediction framework for wind power forecasting. Each module applies a different field engineering, network architecture, and result correlation schema. And then we use the ensemble prediction results of all modules. In the future, we will also continue to improve our solution by integrating multi-models into one model, reducing the number of the models and simplifying the complexity of training. In addition, we will optimize and adjust the coefficients in the current solution and explore more effective methods to deal with time series problems. There are many details of our solution, and due to time constraints, I can't explain every detail. If you have any questions about the details of the solution, I strongly recommend you to read the paper or connect us via email. We will be glad to discuss with you. So that's all what I want to introduce. Thank you for watching.
Okay, thanks for the presenter. And any questions? Okay, due to the time limit, I see there's a question. What things you tried that didn't work? I think what does this mean means that you have ever tried other solutions that and in other words, why you choose this solution to tackle this problem?
We use top-N module. We tried top 50, top 10, and top 5 and top 1, and get the best performance by using top 5. I think top 5 might be not the best top N, but we don't have enough time to try more.
Okay, so due to the time limit, I think if the audience have more questions, you can contact the presenter directly. Okay, thanks for the presenter, and congratulations again. Now, I think we can go ahead for the next team.
Thank you.
Thanks. The next team is Teletran, and the presenter may be Longxing Tan.
Okay, can I start?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Longxing Tan. I'm from the Teletran team. And I have another team member. Her name is Hongying Yue. And we achieved the 3rd place in this KDD Cup 2022. It's a big honor for me to introduce our solution here. So let's start. The first one is about the introduction part. As mentioned that precise forecasting of wind power is important to the sustainability and the security of the power system. And in this task, we need to predict in 48 hours future for every 10 minutes. The performance is evaluated by the average of MAE and RMSE. And for the given data set, we are provided the data about 134 turbines of 245-day history data. And in each time step, there are wind speed, direction, temperature, and so on, totally 10 parameters. And we are also provided with the spatial measurement of each turbine to use the spatial information. So what's the challenge for this task? I think the first one and the biggest one is that the unpredictable nature, because it's always hard to predict the future, especially for a long time for this wind. Also, we don't have the meteorological forecast to use. And the second one is the long sequence prediction. As we said that we need to predict the future 288 steps. So it's always hard to predict so long sequence as well. Before we start, we can have a glimpse of the data. So the first picture will show the overall trend of this turbine farm. We can see that in this more than 200 days, actually the data is quite changeable. There are a lot of sharp points, so make it very hard to predict accurately. And the second one is a daily period. So we could, in this picture, we can know that actually even it's unpredictable and very changeable for the data, but we could know that for each day, maybe at daytime, the wind speed is smaller, so the power is also lower. So there is still a strong period for the daytime. And the third one is about the autocorrelation. As we know that if we want to predict tomorrow's data, yesterday's data is always helpful. And from this picture, we can also see that the 1 week's earliest data could also be helpful for our prediction. So this is our data. And then let's can see our solution architecture. Actually, our solution is quite simple. The first one is always to set up a strong validation. So we split the data by time because we have more than 200 days data. And we said that because the online scenario, we have 3 phases. So we guess there is some gap between the history and the last test data. So we also, to simulate this scenario, we also leave a gap here. So we use day 1 to day 182 to train the data. And for the model, actually, we could choose, basically, we have 2 options. The first one is the time series prediction, and the second one is the spatial temporal prediction to better use the spatial information. And also for the multi-step strategy, because we need to predict the future 288 steps. So it's also important to develop a good multi-step strategy. So the first one is the multi-model, just like the train model. For each step, we train a model. And the second one is the multi-output for the deep learning model. We could add a dense layer at last, so it can predict the multi-step directly. And the third one is the dynamic decoding, like the sequence-to-sequence model. We use the last prediction as the input for the next step. And also one-step decoding, I think this, because the transformer family is now very popular in time series, like informal and autoformal. So these models use the one-step decoding. And also the forecasting decoding, just like the transformer in an NLP area, because for each new step, we use all the historical step to predict the new one. And then is our pre-process and the features. So the first is about how we create the samples. Actually, we use the sliding window to predict more samples to train the data. As the picture shows, we slide one step to generate a new training sample. And for the pre-process, we have, because we have some not a number value, we fill in with the previous values. And for the scalar, for optimization, we use the min-max scalar. For the feature, actually, we only use two features, wind speed and wind direction. And then it's about the model selection. Actually, the most promising data-driven models are statistical models and deep learning models. Also, for both of these two areas, we can treat the task as time series prediction or spatial temporal prediction. So actually, we have a lot of available models to choose. And so we did some experiments. Basically, it's static learning, like we use k-nearest neighbor, like GBM. And for the neural network, we use LSTM, TCN, and transformer. Also, like the GCN model as the spatial model. And finally, according to our experiment, the BORT model behaves the best in our experiment. So we choose a single BORT model as our final decision. And then we can see the details about our BORT model, actually as the picture set here. For the inputs, actually, because we treat it as a time series prediction. So the input is a 3D tensor after embedding layer, and we have a BORT block. The detail is shown here. It has the multi-head attention. It has the layer norm and the skip connection. Because in the original BORT paper, actually they use 6 layers, and here we only use 1 layer. And after the BORT layer, there is 3 dense layers, and to generate the multi-output for the model. So what is the advantage of this BORT model? First, as we know that the attention part, it could capture the long dependencies compared to the RNN model. And the second one is actually we use the dense layer as multi-output. So the dense layer will generate 288 steps directly. So we don't have decoding, we don't have dynamic decoding or one-step decoding. It can obviously accelerate the training and the inference. And compared, because the BORT model actually now is widely used in natural language processing area. So what is the special of our BORT model here for time series task? So the first one is we don't have the pre-training stage. And the second one is we don't have the positional encoding. Actually, we tried different encoding, like positional encoding, positional embedding, or RNN embedding. And actually, we found there is no big difference among them. So we didn't use anyone. And the third one is, I just mentioned, we just have a single layer instead of 6 layers. So this is our model structure. And also we have a post-process. As I mentioned before, actually, even the data is quite changeable, but the daily period is still strong. But we found that our prediction, the prediction from our model actually could not have this daily period. Like the picture that it's quite actually, as we know that for the sharp value, we cannot predict it, but it also don't have the daily period. So we also tried different ways to optimize it, but the simple way is the best, is that we just add the daily fluctuation to the prediction. So the process is that, so we calculate the daily fluctuation for each time step. So for one day, it's 144 steps. And then we normalize it to 0 to 1, and then magnify it like 36, because the scale of our wind power is about, I think it's 1,600. So we magnified it a little, and then we shift it to match the prediction, the start time. And in this way, at least our prediction result could have a daily fluctuation. Also, we try to use the model to learn by itself, but it didn't successful. And let's see our conclusions. And I think it's both, we use a simple and effective method for this task, because we use a single bot model, and the bot model could predict the major trend, but it don't have the daily period. So the daily fluctuation is calculated and added in post-processing to make the prediction effective with daily periodicity. And also our code is released in GitHub. So thank you for listening, and feel free to ask any questions.
Okay, thanks for your presentation. And I think we have one question from the audience. Okay, the short one. How did you calculate the embeddings from the first model?
Actually, we just use the normal version, like, because the dimension of the embedding need to be aligned with the attention model, because if we use multi-head attention, it has the skip connect structure like ResNet, so the dimension must be aligned. But as we said, we only use 2 raw features, so the last dimension of our input is only 2. But I think the attention hidden size we use is maybe 32. So we need to project the 2 to 32. So we'll just use this embedding, normal embedding to do it.
Okay, thanks for your answer. And we have the latest question is, how much score improvement does daily fluctuation bring?
I don't know the exact improved score, because in phase 3 I didn't try it without daily fluctuation, but in phase 2 I think actually it gives at least it's quite a significant improvement. I think actually at the last participant, the rank 2 participant mentioned that actually she only used like the top 5 biggest turbines. I think that's have almost the same influence, because that can magnify the prediction value. But because I also tried to use to make the daily fluctuation to like have a mean of 0, but it's not so successful. So just add all the daily fluctuation. So sometimes it's at least all the prediction are added to a number.
Okay, and I think we don't have enough time to ask all the questions, but I think the first question is very interesting, and I think everyone is maybe interested in. How about the meteorological features? Because in the release data sets, there's no meteorological data, meteorological features. And how do you think about how we make the future prediction without meteorological features?
I think actually, yeah, this setup of meteorological feature can totally change the game, I think. Because if we have this feature, I think it's better to use like a encoder-decoder structure, but without it, actually, according to my experiment and experience, that they just predict based on like the statistical, like according to the history, maybe it's in history, it will improve, it will increase or it will decrease or it has some fluctuation. It's just learn the data pattern from the history data. The meteorological data forecast actually could be quite helpful for the prediction, but we don't have it here.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you. And this is a really challenging and open questions.
Yeah.
So that's it. And I think it's time for the regular track, regular session. And congratulations again for your achievement. And I think it's time for the next session.
Thank you.
And the host, Dr. Zhou, maybe you can take over.
Okay, thanks, Xinjiang. Then we go. I think we do not have break. We can go to the next step directly. So the next team is the 战士锦. The team member is the 雪峰凉, 顾清水, 苏乔, 朱王吕 and 辛宋. I think they are from the Tsinghua University, Zhejiang Gongshang University, and from the University of Toronto. So you can give me a we can start now.
Yeah, sure. So, okay, let me share the screen and can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, yes, we can.
Okay, that's great. And so good morning, everyone. And this is the Zhanshijing team. And today we're going to talk about our solution to this competition, the WP former, a spatial temporal graph transformer with autocorrelation for wind power prediction. And we have 5 team members in this team, and Xuefeng Liang and Qinghui Gu from Tsinghua University, and Su Qiao and Zhu Wanglu from Zhejiang Gongshang University, and I am Xin Song from University of Toronto. Okay, so yeah, let me, sorry, change it to presentation. Okay. And this is the contents of our presentation. And basically it has 4 parts. And the first one is about some background. And the second, I will introduce some methodology of our team. And third part is some experiment and the results. And the last part is some conclusions. Okay, so first about the background. You know that the accurate wind power prediction is beneficial to the formulation of the wind power generation plants, reducing the adverse effects of wasting wind energy and limiting electricity consumption. So basically in this competition, the data set given has 3 main characteristics. The first one is that the spatial distribution, the relative locations of all wind turbines given a wind farm for modeling the spatial correlation among the wind turbines. And the second part is the dynamic context, because we know that the weather situations and the internal turbine status detected by each wind turbine is different and the dynamic, and to facilitate the for forecasting task. And the third part is some abnormal data, and from the data set of the computation, we noticed that actually there are a lot of abnormal data in this data set and a large number of outliers over there. So in order to address these issues, we just propose a series of methods to deal with them. And the first part is to do some data engineering based on the wind power curves. And then we also have the feature engineering. And then we design the model WP formal structure. And also another model, the point-by-point prediction based on the tree model. And then the next, we just using some strategy to do the model fusion to assemble the different models. And we also explore some other methods. Okay, so the first part is that the data engineering based on the wind power curves. Okay. So basically for this part, we, okay, let me see. Sorry. So yeah, for this part, by analyzing the data, we found that actually the total portion of the abnormal data is as high as about the 28%, which also means that the prediction results of this part of the data will not be included in the score. So according to this ratio, approximate 30% of the predicted results will be masked in the online evaluations. And specifically, our online results will be predicted, but the predicted result will be randomly masked by the 30% due to the outliers. So the direct cause of huge fluctuation, both offline and online evaluations. So normally, the power generation and the wind speed are cubic functions, like in this formulation. And according to this relationship, we use an algorithm called the isolation forest to detect the abnormal data, and then mark the abnormal data, and then basically for each turbine, we use the normal data to train a corresponding correction model to correct this abnormal data, as shown in this figure. And we can see that the upper figure are just original data sets, and the figure below is the data set after the correction. And basically we are able to pick up the outliers and then correct them by our light GPM model. Okay. And the second part is that the feature engineering. We analyze the correlation between the features and the rank the features by the importance, excluding 4 types of features like the TM step, WDIR, NDIR, and the ITMP. And at the same time, in order to enrich the information, we also construct a lot of other different statistical features as shown in this table. And I think these features are quite important for our following modeling and prediction. Okay, so this is the structure of our WP formula, and it absorbed the innovations from the auto-formal and the FED formal. We built this transformer model for the wind power scenarios, and which is also the most important part in our solution. Basically, the model adopts the encoder-decoder architecture and they use the graph neural network to encode different turbines. Each turbine is a graph node. For a particular node, we calculate the k nodes with the highest correlation with it and establish connection edges. And we also use the autocorrelation mechanisms into the model. It mainly calculates the sequence autocorrelation coefficient, aggregates similar subsequence information, realizes sequence level connection, and completes better information aggregations. Okay, and then the next is that we also design another model called the point-to-point prediction model based on a tree. And because the structure is totally different from the transformer structures. So the difference between the tree model and the previous transformer model is it's quite a good complement to each other. And so basically in this model, in order to take advantage of the tree model efficiently, we have designed two methods. One is to cluster 134 stations into 39 categories and downsample the input. The other one is to introduce the concept of auxiliary stations. For certain type of station, we will find top K most similar stations among the remaining stations for auxiliary training. And this is the method of the data enhancement. In this implementation, we found that our model, the POP tree, works very well for this computation. So next is that because right here we have two different models, and the next key point is how to assemble these two models. For this computation, we use so for this computation, we use the WP formal and the POP tree as the base model, and generated a total of 8 models by changing the features, some hyperparameters, and the model parameters, and these things. So we have the total 8 models, and so we use the two methods of the model fusion. One is the hybrid fusion, and for each point specifically, according to the difference of the prediction results of the multiple models, if the difference is greater than a certain threshold, we choose to use the median. Otherwise, we can choose to use the mean value instead. And another fusion way is to use the rich CV to train the prediction results of the model on the test set, get the fusion weight of each model, and then submit to the online testing according to this weight. So yes, and besides, we also have some other exploratory methods. And due to the time constraints, even though we have some ideas of that, we don't have enough time to do the implementation, to test them, and submit them for the online testing. So basically, the one here is that to use the mixed loss. And basically, we just use the design the loss based on the MSE and the L1 and then mix them together. Because the computation metric is the average of the the RMSE and the MAE, so we try to use some other losses and to say if can get some better results for that. And another way is that we also try called the models based on the mean learning. And so it's so basically it's to train the model and the try output predictions for the future bias and the scaling ways. And so that's all. And the third part is some experiment results. And the upper figure is that the experiment result of the stage 2, and the lower figure is the experiment result of the stage 3. And we can say use the data cleaning feature, engineering, screening, and auto correlation mechanism and model fusion. The online score has achieved steady improvement. And so it shows that our method is actually very effective for this competition. And I have to say that due to the limited summation time, our best score model is not submitted online at the very last moment. So yeah. Okay. And this is the conclusion of our solution. And first, we designed the data cleaning and correlation based on the wind power curve and complete feature screening. And then we adopt two models for the prediction, the one transformer and the one train model, respectively. And then we propose two effective model fusion methods to ensemble these two models. And eventually, we show that the steady improvement of the online scores, which proves that our solution has a very excellent performance for this competition. And this is the references for our solution. And that's all of my presentation. And thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Xin. I have read the paper actually before the workshop. I think this paper have very high quality. I mean, it's excellent solution. I think it's good enough as a KDD research paper.
So thank you so much.
So is there any question? Okay. If anyone have a question, you can leave a message on the chat. Actually, I do have a question. So for when you are doing the data cleaning, you use the light GBM. So why do you select light GBM? Have you tried any other methods like the average, the neighbor value, or select the median of the value?
Right here. Okay. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I think the my other team members working on this part. I'm not sure. Give me 1 second. Let me see.
Okay.
If they are in the channel. Okay. Give just 1 second. So I think the chief are working on this part, right?
Yeah. We use ISO forest to detect the anomaly data. Not light GBM. Light GBM is to repair the lake data because if we use ISO forest to detect anomaly data and the data in the time series is lake, so we need to use the light GBM to repair the anomaly data.
Oh yeah, I see. I understand. I mean, why do you use the light GBM but not use other method? For example, a popular method to impute the data is use the median of the value around his neighbors. I mean, have you tried this simple method? Is large GBM solution is better than for example the simple one?
No. I firstly at the beginning of the competition, I used all features input the light GBM, but it's not good. So actually only wind feature is important for power. So at the end, I use the wind to. I only use the wind feature to repair the anomaly data.
Okay, I see. Okay, so if there's no further question, we can go to the next presenter. Thank you again for the judging team. Conclusion again. So the next team is the EZST team, and the team member is the Yi Zhao, Hao Minwen, Jun Honglou, Jin Jifu, and Jian Bingzhen. And the advisor is Yu Fanglin. I think they are from the Beijing Jiaotong University and the Cainier company. So the presenter, I think it's okay. Homie, you can begin.
Hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I have record a video and I'm going to play it.
Okay.
Okay. Can you hear the voice of my computer?
I don't think so.
Oh, sorry. I'm going to check it. Hello everyone. I'm Hao Min, a PhD candidate at Beijing Jiaotong University. On behalf of our team, EZST, I will present our solution for the KDD Cup. Our team members come from Business Lab in Beijing Jiaotong University and AI Lab of Alibaba's neural network. I'd like to thank all the members for the great.
Hao Min, it seems the voice volume is low. Can you make it higher?
Share our solution. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay. It's now I have set the maximum voice.
Okay, you can continue.
Yeah. I will present our solution. How about now?
It's better, yeah.
Challenge our solution and finally the experiments. The task in this KDD Cup is wind power forecasting. It requires us to predict the future wind power of turbines. Accurate wind power forecasting is key to reducing wind power fluctuations in system dispatching planning. In this case, we are given multiple features in 2 weeks of all turbines in your wind farm, as well as the locations of those wind turbines. And we are required to predict the generated wind power of each turbine in the next 2 days. And every 10 minutes should have a predicted value. Therefore, the total prediction length is 288. For the first problem, we identified 2 main challenges. 1, complex spatial-temporal correlations, and 2, huge data uncertainties. The first one, complex spatial-temporal correlations. Wind power is affected by various kinds of spatial and temporal factors. Previous methods mainly model the WPF as a time series forecasting problem. Each turbine is considered independent of the others in those methods. However, in real scenarios, spatial correlations exist between different turbines. For example, generated wind power of a turbine usually has the same trend or shares some similarities with its spatial neighbors. How to effectively encode and model both the spatial and temporal correlations brings huge challenges to the problem. The second one, huge data uncertainties, affected by stochastic factors such as the weather, wind speed, and turbine internal context. Wind power data contains huge uncertainties. A majority of previous works focus on the point prediction of wind power, although some of them achieved promising performance. Those methods cannot depict the uncertainty of the prediction. How to model the uncertainties in the data and build a probabilistic prediction is a great challenge. address the above challenges, our team proposes a hybrid spatial temporal power forecasting framework. It is a hybrid learning model equipped with two important prediction models, a deterministic prediction model and an uncertainty prediction model. Here we introduce the details of our solution. Figure 1 shows the overall architecture of our method. We construct our model in the following 3 steps. Step 1, data pre-processing and feature extraction. Step 2, multimodal prediction. And step 3, multi-term and multi-green fusion. The data pre-processing and feature extraction step. First, remove the noise and do the data augmentation of the original data. Then, extract comprehensive features based on the pre-processed data. The multimodal prediction learns multiple deterministic and probabilistic models under different granularities. The deterministic model, named temporal MLP, is proposed to forecast the wind power effectively and efficiently. And the probabilistic model, named deep factor, can model uncertainty factors and achieve probabilistic prediction. At last, the multi-term and multi-green fusion step fuse the predictions of multiple models with different characteristics for more accurate predictions. To avoid the influence of noisy features, only active power and wind speed are used in our method. We first pre-process the data in the following operations. 1. Pre-filling missing values. All missing values are filled by 0. 2. Clipping abnormal values. 3. Spatial group partitioning with turbine clustering. To capture the spatial correlation, turbines with similar power generation patterns are partitioned into the same group by clustering. Specifically, we calculate the similarity of their time series, and the turbines are divided into 6 clusters using the k-means algorithm as shown in the following figure. Based on the group results, we aggregate the data in the same group to generate a new time series. In this way, we can get 6 new mean aggregated series called spatial group mean series. Furthermore, we also define a spatial global mean series, merging the time series of all turbines. It can help our model to capture the common patterns of all turbines. Spatial filling of missing values. Since the zero filling approach cannot effectively exploit the spatial pattern information, we design a novel spatial filling method that uses group mean to fill in the missing values for each turbine. So far, we have got 3 types of time series by data pre-processing. The next step is feeding those series to the feature extraction module. In our solution, the extracted features can be roughly classified into 3 types: raw features, time difference, and time window statistics. The time difference feature is constructed by the difference between the values of 2 given time steps, and we extract multiple time difference feature to fully capture the change patterns in the data. Besides, we count statistical features such as mean, variance, standard deviation, maxima value, and minima value of a feature within a given time window. Last, we design the spatial position embedding to represent each turbine, and the temporal position embedding to encode current time, such as hour of day. After getting the features, we first design a deterministic prediction model called the temporal MLP. It directly regresses the value of the prediction targets. We first construct a multi-layer MLP network to enhance the representation of the model. Each layer consists of a linear layer and a GLU activation unit. Then the T-linear layer is used to extract temporal features based on the features extracted from the previous network layer. And the obtained features are then fed into a linear layer and GLU activation units to boost the nonlinearity. Finally, all temporal features are collected and fed into the MLP consisting of 2 layers to directly predict multiple future time steps. And it's worth noting that since the problem is actually a regression problem, therefore a standard practice is training the model by MLE loss. But in our case, the evaluation score is the combination of both MLE and MAE. So we also introduce the MAE in the model loss. And the results prove that this operation can lead to a more accurate predictions. Besides the above deterministic model, we also design a probabilistic model because affected by stochastic factors such as the weather, wind speed, and power data contains huge data uncertainties. To describe the prediction uncertainty, we introduce the probabilistic model deep factor. Unlike the temporal MLP that outputs point prediction results, deep factor describes each prediction target as a probability. The key assumption of deep factor is that each time series is governed by a fixed global and random component. In particular, we assume that the following generative process. The observation model P can be any parametric distribution such as Gaussian Poisson distribution, and in this work we use Gaussian distribution. For the training node, we use the negative log likelihood loss to train the model. Owing to the huge data uncertainties, the characteristics of wind power fluctuations are so complex that a single model can hardly capture them comprehensively. Therefore, we train several above-proposed models and develop a hybrid model with multi-term and multi-green fusion mechanism to fully take advantage of different models. In the experiment, we split the given dataset into training validation in chronological order by 215 days and 13 days, and tested the model by the online dataset. Our model is trained by the Adam optimizer. The batch size is set to 32, and the training process is already stopped within 10 epochs. The model is implemented by Baidu and trained on NVIDIA GPUs provided by AI Studio. We report the evolution process of our model in the second phase, which includes the following version. V1 only includes the temporal MLP, global mean model, and the multi-term prediction based on V1, V3, and the multi-green prediction based on V2. V4 predicted the value of each turbine, which we call the temporal MLP all turbine, not the average value of all turbines compared with V3. V5 adds the probabilistic forecasting model deep factor based on V4. The model performance of different versions is reported in the following figure. From the figure, we can see that V2 largely outperforms V1, indicating that adding the multi-term prediction can greatly boost the model's prediction ability, especially the performance in short-term prediction. Compared V3 and V2, we can see that the performance of V3 is significantly better than V2, which proves that the effectiveness of the multi-green prediction. Adding the multi-green prediction can benefit the middle-term prediction. V4 directly predicts the wind power of each turbine rather than the global average. In this way, more turbine-specific patterns can be captured by the model, thus improving the model's performance. At last, by adding the probabilistic forecasting model, the performance improves slightly, which improves the effectiveness of modeling the uncertainties of wind power. This is the whole introduction of our solution. Thanks for your listening, and for more details, please refer to our technical paper.
Okay, thanks, Homing. Is there any question? Okay, there's a question in the chat. Ask why 6 group? How do you choose the best number of groups? I think it means how to partition the term.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for the question. Because at the first we can see that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns of the turbines. They are in the spatial distribution. So we just choose an intuitive idea is to partition them in six groups. And for another reason is that we use the k-means algorithm to cluster the time series of all turbines. And I think my team member said that there is a parameter that can help us to select the best cluster number. Yes. So the cluster result is 326.
So another question is that the following question is that did you try other numbers in the evaluation?
No, we didn't try another number, cluster number.
Okay.
Yes.
Actually, I also have a similar question for the partition, how to partition the term. So you are using the k-mean, and what is the features for the k-mean? I mean, it's totally based on the location of the turbo, or you also consider other features of the turbo?
Yes, we as we have explained in the introduction, we use the time series as features of a turbine. So.
So for the special group partition, you do not consider the coordinate of the term, only based on the time series value.
Yes, we mainly based because as you can see in the raw data, that's the neighborhoods their data are so similar. Okay. So yeah, so the result is you can see the result. Yeah, the neighbors are clustered into the same cluster.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, I think the solution for the DZST is very comprehensive and is a complete solution. It's very good. Thank you. Yeah, congratulations again.
Okay.
Okay, so we will go to the next session. The next session is for the invited paper. So the main principle to select the invited paper is based on the novelty and the solution of the for the submitted papers. Okay, the session chair about the next session is Yi Xiongxiao.
Okay, can you hear me? Thank you, Jingbo. And as introduced by Jingbo, in addition to the top 3 teams of the regular track and the pedal track, we also invited 3 teams to give a presentation on their solutions. So the first team is data team UCM. I believe the members are Fernando, Sebastian, and Huangta, and his teammates. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce those names. I'm sorry. So, team UCM, I think you can take from here.
Hello. Yes.
Hello. Hi.
Hello. Yes. So I'm going to share my screen.
Okay, great.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Okay, so I'm Alejandro. You can call me Alex, which is easier to pronounce, I think.
Okay,
and
nice to meet you, Alex.
Nice to meet you too. And my colleague is Fernando, who's also got his camera on. So we will be presenting our solution.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so as we saw in the other presentations, we also did a hybrid model. So combining deep learning GRU neural networks with k-nearest neighbors models, so more classic models for wind power, for the wind power forecasting. So we'll start with an introduction, as we have seen in other presentations. I think by now we have already seen this quite a few times. But the problem consisted of. I'm hearing some noise. I don't know. Can everyone hear me all right? Yes. Okay.
Yes, now it's okay.
Okay. The problem consisted of a series of variables, and we had one target variable, so which we had to predict for 2-day predictions. So 288 10-minute predictions, which made up a total of 2 days. And we were supplied with 8 months of 10-minute data of all these different variables. So apart from the target variable, we also had other variables of turbine internal status, wind speed, turbine ID, day, and timestamp to situate each of the powers. And with this, we had to find a prediction for a 2-day prediction of 10-minute intervals of the active power of the whole power plant. So our initial data exploration, we realized that the data, as it was coming from a real wind turbine park, this has its advantages and its disadvantages. So for the disadvantages, we had a very big quantity of invalid data points, up to 30% for some turbines. This made the data very difficult to process, and the positive part of this is that the data comes from a real wind power plant. So this we think can be very practical now, because the example can be transferred to a real wind farm very easily. If we find the way in which we can deal with this 30% of invalid values. And there was also, as we can see in the matrix, I think you can see my mouse. We can see in the power column that there's a big relationship, a big correlation with wind speed. So this means that wind speed and power are very correlated, as is logical, because it's the physical thing that causes the power. And our initial approach was to think that maybe we could try to predict wind power. I think many teams have probably thought of this, and with the wind power, try to predict the power of the wind turbines with the wind speed. But the problem is that the competition's rules impeded utilizing external data sources. So we couldn't use any external weather methods, weather predictions, or any kind of thing like this. So we another big disadvantage was that as the wind speed is a bit stochastic, then we had the conclusion that the power produced by the wind turbines followed a very stochastic, a very variable and very different distribution for each, even in so we have here a graph of the median values for each timestamp for the whole train period. So here we can see that even through the same day, we can see large variations in power. So the power variations are quite variable, quite random, because the power is due to the wind speed variations, which are kind of unpredictable for the future. So here we have tried to summarize a bit our the main challenges that we have seen when we were exploring this data set and this problem proposed by the organizers. Firstly, fitting models to predict short and long-term predictions is difficult. As we were saying, we have a prediction of 2 days. So model performance varies very greatly between short-term predictions and long-term predictions. So we found that the same models that predicted well for short-term wouldn't necessarily predict well for the long-term. Also, the evaluation was done on a per turbine basis. So all the evaluation of the different turbines was added up per turbine. And this was a big challenge because our first approach was creating LGB models per turbine basis, one model per turbine. But we discarded this approach because there were limitations on the side of the organizers on execution time and model size. So these models were too big and took too long to execute. So it was difficult to deal on a per turbine basis because we couldn't train 134 different models. No? And also, as we mentioned before, there's a large number of invalid data points. So this, as we're going to see later, this was a big challenge when training models with low bias, when training complex models, because they would overfit easily due to the large amount of noise. And also, we found that the offline model validation transfer was to the online transfer was very poor. So when we were training models and validating them locally, when we tried to upload them to the web and to the competition web, the online validation we found was very different to what we were seeing offline. We think this is probably due to also the stochastic nature of wind speed conditions. So we were probably overfitting to our sample and not fitting widely enough to be able to perform well on online samples. And also the fact that the online evaluation had very few samples. So only, I think, about 130 samples were evaluated online. As we're going to see later in our offline evaluation, we had many more.
So it was difficult for us, at least. We have to go fast, Alex.
And yeah, and the large number of invalid data points were also removed when evaluating. So this was also a big thing that made the online execution different to our offline execution. I don't know if you want to add anything else, Fer?
Yes, it was difficult for us to train, to compare the offline execution to the online, but I think it's part of the challenge, and we have continued.
So yeah, we're going to tell you afterwards what we, as we identified this as a big problem at the beginning of the challenge, we also
go fast because we have.
We have to go faster, yeah?
Sí.
I'm a bit lower on time. Okay, sorry. I'm talking to you maybe. So yes, this is basically our method, our different models that we proposed. So here we see a GRU model that we proposed, which is finally we chose a single model for the 134 turbines, which was more robust and simpler. And the main difference to the paddle proposed baseline solution was that we transferred it to PyTorch because we were more comfortable with this framework, and we introduced a higher dropout and a larger batch size apart from a single model. And also we tried many other kinds of more traditional models because we thought that this would be a good solution for a data set with that much noise and that much invalid values. So here we have a comparison for different time horizons of different models of wavelets, KNN, and just a simple median, as we were seeing in the first graph. And our best solution was the KNN for time series, which we're going to explain in detail later. So here we can see the offline leaderboard that we created. So we created an execution onto which we could connect individually using the weights and biases API, which did an automatic model comparison. So each team member could upload his models to the weights and biases, and we already had metrics that would compare in different graphs. And this was executed for 2,000 samples in 15 minutes. And we realized it was very important to look at this score, at the standard deviation of our 2048 executions, because this would indicate that our models had were very robust to the different test sets, because they were robust when changing set, because the standard deviation of the different scorings was low. So this would indicate normally a good transfer between offline and online results. So this was very interesting. Here you can see just a simple summary of our offline executions that we did, our team workflow, where we connect and we executed things through Docker Poetry and principally the weights and biases API in a PyTorch framework, and then we uploaded the best results to the web page. If you want to add anything, Fer, be sure to interrupt.
No, we don't have time. Thank you.
Okay, so just to very quickly explain our models. This is a GRU model. We trained it for different horizons. We were trying different things throughout the competition. So we trained it for a horizon of 6 different training windows, horizon of 18, horizon of 60, and 288. And we'll see how we combine these afterwards. And we also did cross-validation with the model that we explained before. We did 5 different splits for the cross-validation with our 165 days of train. The offline testing was the last 80 days of the train set provided. Here you can see an example of just very quickly different graphs for the 5 faults in the weights and biases API that we used. So this we would upload and it would get all these metrics automatically. And we can see that it overfits quite quickly. You know, the validation RMSE and MI was going up for very few epochs. And also the KNN model, I think I don't have a lot of time to go into detail, but we basically compared 1 hour long points and we did the 2,000 closest neighbors. And we predicted the next 2 days for each of these 2,000 closest neighbors with a different weight that depended on the distance from this hour to the other hours. So the closest neighbors would have a higher weight. And we found this kind of very large KNN model with a lot of neighbors to work quite well for long-term predictions. Here we can see comparisons of different KNN models, which I'm not going to go into too much detail about. We can see also here that is very interesting that with the weights and biases API, we also had predictions for the different horizons. So here we can see up to 288, and this enabled us to compare very, very quickly different models for the ensembling that we're going to see now at the end. So we could compare the model's error, the model's performance for the different horizons here for each of the KNN in order to choose for each time horizon the best model. So this is the final model that we produced. Here we have the final ensemble. So we have the long-term models that we used for the long-term predictions. So it was an ensembling of the GRU and the longer-term GRU model and the KNN. We did a max ensembling because we found by test and error that this actually worked much better than a means ensembling. And short-term models, the short-term GRU models were our best short-term predictors. And we did a final model where we replaced the long-term prediction, the short-term predictions with those of these models for each of their time periods, so 6, 18, and 60 time steps. Here we can simply see examples of our final model in pink. So we see it follows the short-term models at the beginning, and then is an average of the longer-term models we were describing at the end. This is an example for one of the turb-IDs. And here we can simply see the predictions per the score for the different turb-IDs. So Fred, I don't know if you want to add anything else.
No, this is fine.
Okay, so for the conclusions, I think I went a bit fast, but I hope everyone, if not, we can answer any of the questions you have. So for the conclusions, firstly, we had a real turbine park data. So we had a large number of invalid data points, and it was challenging to predict without weather forecasts, I think, as we have all seen. Also, we had a poor online to offline transfer. So it was hard to have robust offline measurements. Some models which were better offline scores then worsened when evaluated online. And so we decided to create and spend some of our time creating an environment for offline validation and comparison to the different online models with using the weights and biases API, which if you haven't heard of it, it's a very good program. And our final ensemble model of various models was chosen through this offline evaluation methodology. And we had a GRU model trained with different time horizons on 5 folds and combined with the KNN model. And the online test period corresponds to periods. We found out that the online test period, the final online test for the third phase, corresponded to periods with higher higher power. So this is why we found that the max score of our models actually worked better than the mean. So by performing the maximum instead of the mean, the outliers in our offline scores decreased in their error deviation. So thank you very much. Here we have put 2 images that were generated with artificial intelligence with DALL-E in order to finish our DALL-E 2. I think everyone has probably heard of it, in order to finish our presentation. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. I don't know if my colleague Fred wants to add anything else.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we had a good presentation. So I see there is a question from the audience. So what do you mean with maximum and what do you mean with maximum and mean k-fold?
I think I can answer. So the thing is, we have one model for each scaffold. We have 5 models. So instead of average these 5 prediction, we use the mass component of each vector. I don't know if.
So when we were adding the models for the different for the final ensemble, instead of picking by doing a mean, so adding one model plus the other and dividing by 2, we decided to pick for each time horizon the one that was higher value, so the maximum of the models.
Okay, so I saw one more question. Zhang Chaodong asked, how did you choose the horizons? Yeah, how did you choose the horizons of your model?
Okay. We tried some of them, but we didn't try it exhaustive, all of them. So we tried several, and we decided that it works to make a model only for this short-term prediction.
Okay.
I have one more question. It's very interesting to use the k-nearest neighbor method to make a time series prediction. Actually, especially consider the dynamic context, because the k-nearest neighbor method can avoid the concept drifting problem. My question is that you say you use the equilibrium distance to calculate the k-nearest neighbor. There are 2 questions. The first one, how do you choose the k?
We
try.
Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah. No, we try several, and we use our offline score to select one.
Yeah, but in your presentation, you say you try k is equal to 2000. I remember.
Yeah, so we actually tried with the offline testing. We tried many values. So from 6, from 1 hour, from only 6 values or 3 to 100, 300, 500, 1000, 2000. And we actually found, which was very interesting, that the actual average of many neighbors worked better than the average of shorter time periods. So we think that maybe because of the stochastic nature of the prediction, the average of more neighbors was more robust than the average of a lower number of neighbors. So this was very interesting, actually. So yeah, we just tried offline all the different combinations and found that with a high number of neighbors, it worked.
Thank you. Thank you. So my second question is that since you are use a k-nearest neighbor search, can you consider the different distance function? For example, use the dynamic time warping to avoid the error of outlier time series. I mean, have you tried another distance function method?
Yes, we try several, but I don't remember because we try cosine distance and several, but I don't remember the name of what we try.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
but the key as
L2 and cosine, but yeah, I don't think we tried dynamic time warping, but it may have been
not because the time.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
I think the key for our evaluation is that we improve the execution time, so we can try several models. With this optimized code. Thank you.
Okay, I see.
For example,
Thank
it
you.
also surprised us that the cosine distance also we wanted to try it because intuitively maybe we thought that it would be better than L2, but then in the end we found we tried many different combinations with cosine distance, and we found that the L2 normally worked much better than cosine, and yeah, I think those were the only ones.
Okay, I see. I have no question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you, team UCM. I think now we can move on to the next team. Next, we invite the team Dynamo to give us a presentation on their solutions. Team Dynamo, you can take it from here. Okay, can you hear me?
Hi, can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for Baidu and Longyuan for providing us this opportunity to present our methods in the wind power forecasting competition. Our team members are Hongfeng, Wenqi, and Chaodong. My name is Chaodong, and today Hongfeng and I will present our methods to you, and we will try to make it short. Okay. Okay. There are four parts in our presentation: data preprocessing and feature engineering, LGBM model, multivariate OSTM model, and model ensemble.
Based on the official instruction and our exploratory data analysis, we found out the given dataset has nearly 30% anomalies, which bring negative influence in the following two aspects. First, if there are extreme value, the time series will be constrained to a narrow region after standardization. Then it causes unreasonable skew distribution between the time series with extreme value and other normal time series. Second, anomalies bring difficulties for model learning temporal dependencies. Therefore, anomaly preprocessing is essential for this dataset. Table 1 shows our anomaly analysis and preprocessing method. The anomaly are caused for many reasons, such as measurement error, power scheduling, turbine renovation, and etc. Based on the analysis of the different abnormal features, we adapt to different preprocessing methods. For example, we use linear interpolation for wind direction and the sail direction. On the other hand, since the external temperature should be similar for turbines at the same time, we adjust the abnormal temperature values to the median value of the whole wind field at the current time. More abnormal detection and data preprocessing method about wind direction and active powers will be described in the remaining presentation.
Okay, we will discuss two data preprocessing methods in detail. The first example is the max power and wind speed curve. From the data, we hypothesize that there is a maximum wind power for every wind speed, and the data of the wind speed is of relatively high quality. And from the data, we assume that the max power is a power exponential function to the wind speed, and with a maximum cutoff speed. And we try to calculate the parameters of this function through the data, and we separate the data into histograms. And for the histogram G, the center of the group G is VG, and these parameters were calculated by solving this optimization problem. For this problem, there are two parts. The first part is a penalty of the data above the curve, and the second part is the gap between the curve and the data point just below it. And this problem was solved directly by the Python SCI package. And here is an example of the solution. We treated these data points above the curve as anomalized and adjust them to the corresponding value on the curve. And our second example is the wind and angle adjustment. From the competition material and the discussion, we know that the wind angle respect to the north is the nacelle direction plus the wind direction respect to the nacelle. However, when we draw the wind directions at a time snapshot, we found that the angles of the wind at the turbine locations were nearly randomly distributed. And we thought that this was because the zero angle was not along the north direction, but were different for different turbines. So we adjusted them according to a very simple assumption that when wind speed is greater than 10 meters per second, the wind angles at all turbines are the same. And based on this simple assumption, and after the adjustment, the wind directions are more closely distributed, except only a few outliers. Okay.
Our methods use the following feature: circular feature, mass power feature, sliding window features, and TS-flash feature. First, wind direction and the medians of day are circular features, so we calculate their sine and cosine value as features for our model. Second, since we have wind speed mass power curve, we can easily get the difference of the mass power and actual powers as different as feature. Third, for many base features, we aggregate their history window to get the statistical features. Final, in order to release the manual feature mining, we use the TS-flash library to automatically generate multiple time series features, such as autocorrelation coefficient. Now it's turn to the experiment parks. Since the competition is about long sequence time series forecasting, and the data distribution is unknown, we use light GBM, which has better generalization compared with the X3 books. Also, light GBM model have parallel optimization, which improve the efficiency of our iterated experiments. As we can see in this slide, abnormal preprocessing significantly reduced the online score, especially in the phase 1. In addition, adding mass power wind speed adjustment and feature somehow reduce offline error. But more feature engineering, such as adding TS-flash feature, is limited to this long forecasting task.
In this work, we included the spatial information of turbines implicitly by enforcing hierarchical coherence constraints. Firstly, we separated these turbines into different groups based on their paired distance. So the constraint is that for a specific group, the power of the group should be the sum of the power of all the turbines within that group. And if X is the vector power of all the groups and the turbines, and then all the constraints can be written simply as AX equals 0. And the matrix A is solely decided by the hierarchical structure of the groups and the turbines. And our second model is a 2-layer LSTM model. This model forecasts the power of turbines and the turbine groups simultaneously. Then the forecast goes through a self-attention layer along the turbine axis. This layer tries to learn the interactions among turbines. And the output of this attention layer is X hat. But here, X hat doesn't satisfy the coherence constraints. And then X hat goes through the hierarchical coherence layer. This layer changes X hat minimally, but up and into the X hat prime. But X hat prime now satisfy the coherence constraints. Actually, we can evenly get a closed form solution for the hierarchical coherence layer from Lagrangian multipliers. And our final solution is ensemble of light GBM and LSTM model. For the light GBM model, we trained multiple models with different hyperparameters and then generated multiple forecasts. And then the mean value of these forecasts were calculated. For the STM model, we also generated multiple forecasts, but with different forecasting horizons. And the mean value of the same horizons was then calculated. And finally, they were concatenated. These forecasts were concatenated to form the LSTM forecast. The final forecast is combination of the two models. The first half comes from the LSTM forecast, and the remaining half is the mean value of the light GBM and the LSTM forecast. Our final score online is 45.64. In conclusion, we used some novel data preprocessing methods, and we incorporated the spatial information implicitly through a self-attention layer and enforced the hierarchical coherence constraints. And we also used ensemble methods for models with different forecasting horizons. Okay, that's all for our presentation. Any questions?
Okay, I think we have a good presentation. I particularly like it the max power feature you added to this model. I think it can be seen as the integration of the power curve fitting model to time series predictions. However, I have a question about the spatial partition part of your model. So I wonder, how do you decide the number of your partition? And seems to me from your figure, all the groups are in line with the rows of the position. So have you tried other partition methods?
Yes, actually the partition is the rule is very simple. Any two turbines, any nearby turbines, if the two turbines, the distance between the two is below some threshold, they should belong to one group. That's the partition rule. So it ends up with this. Actually, we also tried some different partition methods manually, and actually we included one in our LSTM model, but I just didn't present it here.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So do we have any questions? Okay, thank you, Team Dynamo. If we don't have any questions, I think we can move on to the next team, Team DD. I think it's a team from Huawei, and the team name is DD Huala Huala. Okay. Okay. Actually, Team DD Huala Huala is going to play a video they recorded. So, Jinbo, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Marcus Kalander at Huawei, and on behalf of my team, which consists of myself, my colleague Rao Zhongwen, also at Nova Lab, and Chang Chengzhi at State Street Corporation, I will present our approach to the KDD Cup Spatial Dynamic Wind Power Forecast competition held by Baidu. And in this competition, we participated using the team name Dida Huala Huala, and we got ranked 6th in the regular track. So before going into the details of the model itself, I want to say a couple of things regarding the data pre-processing and feature engineering. We found empirically that the feature engineering step played a critical role for obtaining a good final score. So this is an important part of our solution. And the figures here, they illustrate the feature importance for our task. So in other words, predicting the active power of the wind turbines. We have here separated it into 3 figures with an immediate forecast, 1-day future forecast, and 2-day future forecast. And the key observation here is that the importance of the features, they change depending on the forecast horizon. So for example, the wind speed is the most critical feature for immediate forecast, while for long-term forecast, the turbine ID is the most important one. So the ID here, it can be seen as a proxy for the turbine location and the turbine specific characteristics. We can also observe that not all features are needed, and we thus remove both the directional features, so in direction and nacelle direction, as well as the inside and outside temperature features. Moreover, we merged the 3 pitch angles into a single value by taking the maximum value at each time step, since they are perfectly correlated with each other, as can be seen in this heat map here. And the final feature set that we actually use is therefore the turbine ID, the wind speed, the maximum pitch angle, and the reactive and active power. So this is a high-level overview of our solution. It's based on the fusion of 2 very different models. So the first one is a modified version of D-linear, which we denote as MD-linear. And D-linear, it was proposed in a recent paper, Are Transformers Effective for Time Series Forecasting, in May this year. So it's quite recent, and it showed that a very simple network can outperform more complex transformer-based models for long-range forecasting. And we call the second model Extreme Temporal Gated Network, XTGN, and it's based on stacking multiple gated extensions of temporal convolutional networks to create forecasts for each wind turbine. And as a post-processing step here, we also perform information diffusion over the nearest neighborhood graph to merge information from nearby wind turbines. And both these models, they use a mask loss function that ignores any missing, unknown, or abnormal values in the input data. So let's take a closer look at the details of each model. We start by taking a look at the modified D-linear. Here we actually perform some additional feature engineering before applying the model. And we specifically split the turb ID feature into 2 separate ones, the cluster and ID features. The clusters themselves can be seen in this figure here. And as you can see, it simply considers the X coordinates of the wind turbines. And we actually tried some more intricate methods, but we did not see any improvements in the final score. The ID feature, on the other hand, it simply considers the Y coordinates within each cluster. And from this, we additionally create a new feature, cluster average, which is the average active power of all the wind turbines within a cluster. This takes advantage of the spatial information to improve the performance and robustness of the model. And for the model itself, it's actually exceedingly simple. We first take the time series of each feature independently and split them into a trend and residual part. And this is done by using a moving average. Then we apply linear layers separately to the trend and the residual, and then sum these together. Finally, we merge the result from all features using an additional linear layer to obtain the final forecast for the active power. And in the final model, we consider the most recent 288 timestamps as the input to the model. Then, to obtain even better results, we actually train 4 separate MD linear models with different forecast horizons. So we have forecast horizons 72, 144, 216, 288. And these are trained, and then the forecasts are fused together. And the fusion is done by taking the latest 72 predicted time stamps from each model. So for the first model, we take all the predicted timestamps. For the second model, we take the last 72 and so on to get the final predicted output. So for our second model, it's the XTGN model. It's based on a temporal convolutional network, TCN, where the different layers have different dilation factors, which allows for a large resective field. And the figure here is illustrate the structure on how the input is propagated through the network in a standard TCN. However, to allow the information to better flow through multiple layers, we apply a gated extension of TCN, which is shown here. And it actually uses two separate dilation layers with respectively a tan and a sigmoid activation function. This is to control the information flow to the next layer. This is then added to the input and then sent on to the next gated TCN with a higher dilation factor. And we use skip connections to obtain the output of each layer in the stack and add these together. And then after passing it through a convolutional and a linear layer, this becomes our output. And then during the inference phase, we actually have one additional step where we adopt an information diffusion scheme to mitigate the negative effects that a typical data can have on the forecast. And specifically, we adjust the forecast for each wind turbine by incorporating neighborhood information. So this is the forecast values of the neighboring wind turbines. And this relies upon the observation that nearby wind turbines take similar wind power patterns. And in the final version of our model, we consider the nearest 49 nearest neighbors. And then for wind turbine X with a forecast Y, the final forecast then becomes alpha times Y plus 1 minus alpha times the average wind power of the neighbors. So this is the main idea for our XTGN model. And similar to the MD linear model, we consider the most recent 288 time points as the input. So for the fusion of the two models, what we actually found performed the best was just using the average of the two for each timestamp in the forecast. We also tried using some other fusion strategies, as can be seen in this table here, where one of the models is used for the first 72 or 188 time points, and then the other model is used on the remaining segment. We also tried including other models such as a light GBM model, which demonstrated good results during the offline testing, but it actually resulted in a worst final score when we submitted it online. And for the figure here, it shows a typical 288 length prediction for a single wind turbine. And as you can see, the forecast of the two models in green and purple here, they're actually quite similar to each other. But the fused model in orange is the one that proved to be most robust in the end. Finally, this table here shows some scores on offline testing data with some initial baselines and the two baselines provided by the organizers. Here was I've included the light GBM model I mentioned before. And as you can see here, it actually have a better score on the offline data compared to the fused model. We also include a version of the MD linear model where we do not use the four models strategy that's we train on different forecast horizons, but simply use a single model. And as you can see here, the score is actually quite much worse than the MD linear model that we used in our fusion. So to summarize everything, our approach is based on a fusion of two considerably different approaches. The first one is the MD linear, which applies time series decomposition and transform the features using an exceedingly simple linear network. Here we also adapt and merge forecast strategy where 4 different models are trained with different forecast horizons and then merged together. The other model is the XTGN, which stacks multiple layers of gated TTNs and then uses skip connections to merge the outputs from each layer together to obtain the final output. And here we also added an information diffusion to incorporate forecasts from neighboring wind turbines and in this way acquire more robust results. The final forecast is a fusion of these 2 models, and it's simply the average of the 2 which proved to be the best results on the online evaluation. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you. Since the presenter does not attend the workshop, therefore we cannot answer the question. If you have a question, I think you can drop an email to the author directly. So maybe I can have a brief summary. Up to now, I see we just passed 5 months for the KDD Cup. So I think every team have spent a lot of time and efforts for the competition. Even you do not get the good rank or results, I think the process is more important. I hope you can enjoy the process of the KDD Cup. And another point is that the end of the competition is not the end of research. I hope we can work together. In the future, we can apply the AI technology in the more sustainable energy to solve more sustainable energy problem. Okay, so Professor Du, do you have something you want to remark? Okay, I think we can end now. Thank you all. Bye-bye.